Hey guys, what's up? So I've been using this Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra for almost a month now. I learned quite a few things about this phone. There's a lot to love about this thing and a couple of things I don't like so much. Let's ramble.
Hold up, place go wild when I pull up. They all on me like it wants them.
Alright guys, so I was lucky enough to have been invited to the official launch of the S26 Ultra during Samsung Unpacked in San Francisco last month, which means I got to spend some early hands-on time with it and share my first impressions with you guys in my initial review. Now, of course, those videos really are based on first impressions only, and at these hands-on sessions, all the top features are showcased by Samsung professionals under carefully curated conditions, which is why I think it is important to always follow up these videos after I've had some actual time spent with the device on my own. Thankfully, we did receive a review unit pretty much immediately after the event, which means I've had close to a month to play around with this thing, test the features, experience some of the pros and cons, and share some of my thoughts with you guys now. Maybe a quick few words on the design. Samsung ditched the titanium body for an aluminum one, which has its advantages. I mean, aluminum is lighter, it's better at heat dissipation, but it also has downsides, like the fact that it damages a lot easier. In other words, you do not want to be dropping this thing on the floor, not even once, so I would highly encourage you to put a case on it. As you can see, I'm rocking this case by Caseku in a color that perfectly matches the phone, but more on them later. The point is, you need a case. Now, having a case on this particular device, the S26 Ultra, comes with an additional advantage, and that is stability. Samsung introduced this camera island on these new phones, and regardless of what you think of it as a design choice, it does create quite a bit of wobble. Now, a good case will mitigate that or get rid of it entirely. So another, well, I guess you could call it design feature, is the way Samsung integrated the S Pen. It has this weird quirk whereby you can insert it the other way around. It still works, it still slides in, and it still clicks into place, but then it will have this edge stick out. So you will actually have to check every time you put the S Pen back to see if it's the right way around. It is also a bit thinner than previous versions, which does make it feel a bit fragile at times. And unfortunately, Samsung did not bring back Bluetooth. I know a lot of you guys were upset when Bluetooth was removed, and I did consider at some point that because of that, maybe Samsung might put it back, but they didn't. I did a bit of digging, and it turns out that Samsung found that less than 1% of its user base was actually using those Bluetooth features. So I guess us techies complaining are a bit of a vocal minority. Personally, I'm not a huge S Pen user, but I did like the camera shutter function, which it no longer has, of course. Removing Bluetooth from the S Pen also helps streamline the internal design a little bit. It's probably a bit easier on the battery as well. Speaking of the battery, by the way, the battery on the S26 Ultra is still only 5,000 milliamp hour, and that isn't a whole lot in 2026, especially since a lot of Chinese brands are moving to these bigger batteries and these new battery technologies. But this is Samsung, a big player, and I guess that much like Apple, they're not keen on jumping on new technologies before they have fully matured and have a proven track record. Samsung also had its fair share of issues in the past, so it would make sense that they'd rather play it safe, especially in the battery department. With that said, the processor and the display on the S26 Ultra are very, very efficient, so you should at least not be noticing any reduction in battery life, maybe even small improvements over the previous models. The processor is the Snapdragon Elite Gen 5, which is a beast, of course, and this thing is being used globally, meaning no more Exynos processors, even here in Europe, at least not in the Ultra models. There is, however, one big upgrade regarding the battery that I really appreciate, and that is the new fast charging capacities. Wired fast charging offers up to 60 watts of charging speed, and that is substantial because it means you can actually charge the battery on this S26 Ultra from completely dead to completely full in about 45 minutes. That's kind of nuts. Wireless charging got a nice boost as well. It now supports Qi 2 wireless charging up to 25 watts, which is great as well. You will of course need a wireless charger that is actually capable of that, and the Samsung S26 Ultra does not have a built-in magnet to accommodate these magnetic chargers, so if you plan on doing a lot of wireless charging, you will need a case that does. And look what a perfect segue we just created to introduce today's sponsor, Caseku. Guys, these phones are not cheap, so please do yourself a favor and slap a case on it. A premium device like the S26 Ultra deserves a premium case, and the Magic Stand cases by Caseku are exactly that. They look awesome, crafted to match the S26's new colorways, like this glossy sky blue and matte cobalt violet. Great protection all around with the 3.0 U-Shock airbags that can withstand drops from up to 18 feet height. Screen and camera is well protected with these raised edges, but the standout feature for me is definitely the Magic Stand 360. The Ultra has that super fast 25-watt wireless charging, but it doesn't have built-in magnets. The Magic Stand is made of armor aluminum, and it has what K-School calls Mag Prime, delivering 2 times stronger magnetism than the official standard, which keeps those ultra-fast chargers perfectly in place to make sure you get those top charging speeds. But there's more. The ring folds out, it rotates a full 360 degrees with that satisfying click, and it is adjustable up to 170 degrees horizontally and vertically, meaning it can be used to prop up your phone in any orientation you want. I also like to use the Magic Stand as a grip, which gives you that secure feeling when you're texting or taking photos and videos. If you want to check them out for yourself, there will be links in the description below the video. Alright guys, moving on to the cameras before I get to the new feature I love the most about this S26 Ultra. So looking at the front screen, you'll notice a few things. We see that Samsung kept that anti-reflective coating, and I do appreciate that, especially in a studio environment like this one where there's lights everywhere. Having that anti-reflecting coating really does help. Also, when you're outside in the sun, it really makes a difference. What you'll also notice is the hole punch, which is quite visible. Now, I know some of you screen purists really hate the hole punch. Personally, I don't really care. It kind of disappears for me when I'm using my phone, but I think there's a good reason to have it this time because the front-facing camera, or the selfie camera, if you will, has gotten a wider field of view, which is awesome for taking selfies and group selfies especially. But yeah, it does mean that a bit of space is needed to give the camera that field of view, to give it some breathing room, so the hole punch actually makes sense. The rear cameras are awesome, as we're used to from Samsung, but a big improvement is that all cameras except the 3x telephoto lens have a faster aperture now. f1.4 is really fast, and what that basically means is that it lets in way more light, which is part of the reason why the cameras, especially the main 200 megapixel one, are so good in low light situations. Really nice, clear images with virtually no noise. I won't go too deep into the cameras right now because we've already covered that in the first impressions video, and we all know the specs by now. All I want to say here is that the cameras on this phone are really good, some of the best on a smartphone today. What's more exciting to me as a creator is the video capabilities, because we can now shoot video in a log profile, which Samsung calls APV. And that is absolutely awesome because it lets you film in much higher dynamic range, capturing way more detail, which makes it much easier to edit the files later on and get great results out of this footage. When you're using a bunch of different cameras, of course it's never going to look exactly the same as one of these full frame cameras I'm using here, but if you can use a log profile, you can at least get it to look pretty similar, and that's really, really useful. Now these files are going to be pretty massive, which is why it's great that we can now record to an external SSD. You will need it. Monitoring LUTs are also a very cool feature, and what that basically means is that you get a little taste of what your footage might look like when it's graded, instead of looking at that typical washed out flat log profile, you know? Oh, and let's not forget horizon lock, which is awesome. And no, nobody's going to turn their phones 360 degrees while filming. I'm aware of it. All of us reviewers love to do that to showcase the feature, but where it is actually really useful is when you're walking and filming at the same time, or maybe you're riding a bike or doing anything that requires a lot of movement. To be able to keep that horizon steady is a really useful feature. Now, I was going to talk more about the new AI features, but some of them don't really seem to be fully working yet, at least not here in Europe, so I'll keep that brief and I'll maybe save it for another video. Samsung spent a lot of time integrating AI into the workflow, which includes things like asking AI to order you an Uber, and it will go ahead and do that for you. All but the final payment step, which I guess still needs human interaction for security reasons, maybe privacy reasons. It makes sense that it would need my approval. Another little disadvantage I've noticed about the AI is that it will work really well with the Samsung apps, but not that well yet with third-party apps, which to me is a bit of a bummer. I mean, it's great if you're in the Samsung ecosystem and you're using those apps anyway, you're gonna have a good time. But for me as a reviewer, it doesn't work so well because I have to jump between systems. So I rely mostly on third-party apps so I can, keep using all my phones and not lose any data. So I'm using WhatsApp, Telegram, that kind of stuff. And with that, it doesn't really work yet. Maybe in the future that will be the case. That's not Samsung's fault. It's just a matter of having access to these apps. What does work really well is the onboard Bixby agent, which I've found especially useful to pull up menu items from the settings menu, or even activating settings straight from the home screen. Hey Bixby, set a reminder.
What do you want to set a reminder for?
Call the doctor at 3 p.m.
I set a reminder to call the doctor at 3 p.m. on March 20th, 2026.
Can you pull up the camera settings? That's pretty impressive. Now guys, the feature I ended up liking the most is the feature I thought I would care about the least, and that is the privacy display. When I learned about the fact that they were gonna introduce it, I was like, okay, who cares? But it's actually so cool. I'm really impressed with this feature. Not just the fact that I no longer need a screen protector to get that privacy screen effect, but the fact that it's so modular and customizable. You can turn it on or off. You can turn it darker and lighter, but you can actually go into the settings menu and decide on an app-by-app basis for which apps you want the privacy display turned on and which ones you don't. I basically have it turned on for all of my messaging apps, my emailing apps, my browsers, and my banking apps, and I leave it off for other apps, like the Photos app, since that's an app I often use to show photos to my friends and family, and I obviously want them to be able to clearly follow along from any angle. I also have it turned on for incoming notifications. So even if you can see the rest of my screen, the incoming notification will be covered up. Very cool stuff, and I genuinely love this feature, way more than I thought I would. Alright guys, so those are my thoughts after a month of using this thing. A bit of a verdict maybe, a conclusion if you will. Do you need to upgrade from your S25 Ultra? Probably not, and I guess most normal users won't do that anyway. I mean, swapping phones every year is a bit ridiculous to be fair, and really something that is mostly done by people like myself, like tech reviewers who upgrade every single time for the sole purpose of reviewing this new tech. With that said, I do believe this is a worthwhile upgrade from the S24 Ultra and older, and of course, if you're a tech enthusiast, you love playing around with new features, and you have the cash to spare, you will definitely have a very fun time with this one. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.